Tower, this is Hell Diver 4. We are ready for takeoff. Be advised that we are only capable of doing a soft landing in the current conditions.
Are you feeling lucky? Have you experienced bouts of uncontrollable laughter when the concept of RNG is brought up? Well, boy do I have a ship for you. Today we're talking about RNG or USS Ranger. A character so dedicated to RNG that she literally has that on her dress. Now what's so crazy about this little common light carrier that it has given her the reputation that she has? As a common, one would say that her stats are nothing compared to the current damage carrier queen that we have known as Enterprise. And they aren't wrong. She is for the most part inferior in almost every aspect save for her reload. But it wouldn't be fair to compare her to Enterprise or any other higher rarity carriers. When compared against the other three common light carriers, she has pretty good stats. Her health is higher by a decent margin and is complemented by a medium armor type. Her reload is lower than most, which means her airstrikes will take a bit more time before they are launched. In terms of aviation, it is considerably lower than most of the commons, which would make her seem like she's not going to do a lot of damage, but we'll get to that. In terms of defense, she has an average anti-air stat when compared to her counterparts, but her evasion is a good amount higher than the rest of them. She'll be more than likely to dodge an attack, but it still is likely that she'll get hit. One thing that is a bit comical to me considering her overall character is that her luck is noticeably high, just like Enterprise. Another thing to point out is her equipment. Light carriers generally don't follow the carrier standard, so one really needs to look at what each light carrier runs. Most will probably have an anti-air gun and only 2 sets of planes, or they're a whole shoal who has no chill and a gun. Ranger runs a terrifying setup of 1 set of torpedo bombers and 2 sets of dive bombers. The only way to have a more damaging loadout is to have 3 dive bombers. To further complement this setup, her efficiencies with limit breaking are something to consider. While the torpedo bomber sees no initial increase, the dive bombers gain an additional 15%, bringing them up to a 130% efficiency. Now that can be a pretty nasty combination. The only downside of this is that she has no fighters or anti-air guns, so her anti-plane capability is abysmal. However, her stats and equipment don't really say much in regards to her reputation, so it's gotta be her skills that are doing it, right? Well, this is where we start to see why. Her first skill is Quick Takeoff, which gives a 50% chance to launch another strike after launching an airstrike. If one were to look at this skill and think, oh, so if I launch an airstrike, I have a small chance of getting a second one only, right? Well, yes, but actually no. You see, this bonus airstrike can also activate this skill. And the next one. And this can keep going on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Okay, so it chains. This is probably the most hilarious thing about that skill. This skill is literally responsible for turning a seemingly weak carrier into a mass murdering nightmare that commits ship genocide in both PvE and PvP. We can see a bit of the RNG element to her, but Quick Takeoff is a skill that exists for several other light carriers. So how can this make her the RNG character we know her to be? Well, look no further than her retrofit. Stat-wise, she gains some points into the stats that matter for a carrier. Health, aviation, anti-air, and a small chunk to reload. Her equipment also gains a bump in efficiency as well. The torpedo bombers gain a 5% efficiency boost, putting them up to a 105% final efficiency. But the dive bombers gain an additional 15%, boosting them up to a 145% efficiency. These stats and equipment efficiencies combined with Quick Takeoff could cause her to wipe everything out. However, we're not done yet. Ranger gains another skill called Assault Carrier, which grants up to a 25% chance for the airstrike to deal double damage. So not only can she spam planes, but she can also spam double damage airstrikes. And yes, any of these airstrikes, bonus or not, can proc both skills. And this is the reason she is called RNGer. In a lot of cases, she'll be doing her basic attack, but her damage potential is unlimited, something that gives her bragging rights. You can never know how well she does until, well, it happens. Honestly, I think San Diego can easily describe how I feel about using Ranger in general. So now for the big question, mob or boss fleet? Ranger's in one of those interesting positions where she can potentially deal a lot of damage. Unfortunately, she's not likely to do so. She can be used in both, but her damage potential is a bit more forgiving in mob fleets rather than boss fleets. Now, I'm not saying that she can't be used in boss fleets. However, it is important to realize that she is not going to decimate the boss every time. When her skills don't activate, she'll be doing less damage than several carriers and light carriers. She's a character that relies heavily on RNG, so use her at your own risk. In mob fleets, that damage can be a bit more forgiving since the need to deal massive amount of damage isn't a major issue, as your fleet should be built around that high damage anyway. Now, when she does proc, or even starts chaining, then she'll start to become a deadly force to deal with. Ranger is a character that has no synergy with any particular character at all, but Ranger can work with anyone, whether that fleet is a meme fleet or not. Overall, Ranger, or RNGer if you would prefer to call her that, may be a common, but she is capable of asserting her dominance in the fight. Using her requires putting a lot of faith in RNG for things to fall in your favor, but when it does, man does it get scary. Now, if someone wants to know if it's worth retrofitting this common carrier, I would definitely say she's worth the time. Not only does she have the best damage potential in the game, she can also be a bit better on the fuel cost given her status as a common. So it's worth farming 3-4 for her retrofit blueprints. And of course, whatever other things you do there. And that'll be all for Ranger. Hope you guys enjoyed this video and that it will help you in your future sorties. As usual, the list for the next characters are shown on the screen. If there's someone that I haven't covered that's not on this list, then let me know. I did have to push St. Louis back, not St. Louis, but St. Louis back, as I don't have her yet. Anyway, next on the list is the Crane Sisters, Shokaku and Zuikaku, so look forward to that video when it comes out. Whether you are a regular viewer or a fellow patron supporting the channel on Patreon, thanks for watching and I will see all you guys in the next video or live stream that I do. See you all again real soon.